I like to deem myself a veteran of the internet. I've been here since the dial-up era, and I've seen the attitude of content creation as well as the environment of the platform change before my very eyes. But if there's one big pet peeve I can't stand about modern content creators, it's the soft-spoken language and constant unnecessary censorship they use, especially when it comes to very serious topics, all to maximize monetization on said content. And you may have witnessed this firsthand from a lot of content creators nowadays. Instead of talking about rape or sexual assault allegations, they'll say grape or SA allegations. Instead of talking about someone committing suicide, they'll say they unalived or game ended or checked off the battle bus early. Even terms like pedophiles have been shortened down to PDF files, which was funny in the beginning, but like every other meme on the internet has been driven into the ground because of its overuse, and now is just eye-rolling and obnoxious. And the biggest victim of all this is true crime content. I have nothing against people who create true crime content. There's a lot of interesting stories that come out of the communities that decide to cover those types of topics. But when it comes to those topics in specific, there's a certain amount of respect that is owed to them. You're talking about people being raped, assaulted, abused by their parents or loved ones, or just downright malicious people. And when you say a woman was graped instead of raped, you're not doing the case any justice. You're not doing the story any respect that it is deserved, and it feels in a way you're mocking the person who was assaulted in this case. Chris Reagan also made a video on this topic covering most if not all the same grievances I have with this content format and the disrespect that it brings the topics that they're covering, even beating me to the punch of using George Carlin as a grade A example of why soft language is bad for our society.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse. I'll give you an example of that. There's a condition in combat. Most people know about it. It's when a fighting person's nervous system has been stressed to its absolute peak and maximum, can't take any more input. The nervous system has either snapped or is about to snap. In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language. 2 syllables. Shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea, 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high by that time, and the very same combat condition was called operational exhaustion. Hey, we're up to 8 syllables now. And the humanity has been squeezed completely out of the phrase. It's totally sterile now. Operational exhaustion. Sounds like something that might happen to your car. Then, of course, came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still 8 syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll bet you if we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time.
Simply put, as time marches on and generations change, more definitions of words will be changed to suit the comfort of that generation in question, all to make them feel more comforted and not face the reality that they should be. When you face reality, you face the ability to try and change the world for better. But nowadays, a lot more people would rather take that false comfort than they would face that reality in question, which is a sad world that we live in, but a world we live in nonetheless. The sad reality, though, is that if we all rose up and told content creators we won't support or watch content that takes very serious topics and uses soft language to disrespect them in some way, shape, or form, They'll just cry and hide behind the same excuse you and I have probably heard 1,000 times. I don't want to talk this way, but YouTube forces me. Now, I can only speak from personal experience, but this seems to be the biggest lie a lot of content creators tell their audiences, that they're making some sort of noble gesture of sacrificing their personality to continue to create content for them no matter what. But I don't see it that way. I've been a YouTube partner for around 3 years now, and never have I had a problem with YouTube monetization on my channel. And I've constantly said all the words these people are afraid to say, and more. I did an entire video on The Bunny Game, a movie about a woman that gets kidnapped by a trucker that's drugged, raped, chased, beaten, dragged through the desert on a leash, and went in detail on that shit. And still, that video was fully monetized, not by me, but by YouTube's own standards. When you upload a video, you choose whether that video gets monetized or not. And when you do, you have to do a self-evaluation checklist of everything that could potentially divert ads away from this video. And more often than not, those things lead to you being greenlit for full monetization. And if I can talk about something as messed up as The Bunny Game in detail and still get fully monetized, they can talk about these cases, about these stories, and still get fully monetized. You just can't cross that line. And I know a lot of people don't want to discover what that line is, but you need to know it so that way you can create great content for everybody. In the end, I see no way to actually save ourselves from this. We can only hope that people grow a pair of balls and stop being gun-shy about everything. And if you're as sick of this content as I am, I share your sympathy. And I feel that there should be one major rule when it comes to content surrounding this kind of format. If you can't give the topic the respect it deserves, then maybe you shouldn't be making a video on it.